Hi, everyone. I'm giggling because this is like my 30th take of this intro because I just want it to be perfect. So, welcome to this week's episode of Humor in the C Suite. My guest this week is Charlene Wheeless. She is a multifaceted powerhouse in the business world. She blends over 30 years of extensive experience in leadership, communications, and operations with a personal journey that exudes authenticity and resilience. As a highly sought after keynote speaker, leadership advisor, coach, and author, she has empowered executives and teams globally to achieve breakthrough performance and transform business cultures. Charlene began her public life as a NFL cheerleader, performing in front of millions, which honed her presence and poise for the stage. Her mission is deeply rooted in helping ambitious women embrace life with unapologetic authenticity. Her debut book, You Are Enough: Reclaiming Your Career and Life with Purpose, Passion, and Unapologetic Authenticity, was a bestseller in 2021, winning 3 independent book awards for best nonfiction and inspirational books of the year. Charlene is more than just a speaker. She's a beacon of resilience. Her journey from corporate roles to starting multiple companies, coupled with her dedication to empowerment and authenticity, makes her unparalleled. And we are lucky to have her on Humor in the C-Suite. So please welcome Charlene Wheeless. Boom. Hi, Charlene. How are you?
Hello, I'm great. I'm great.
Oh, I'm so happy you're here today. Actually, I'm thrilled, honestly. Just reading about you, how much you've done, how much you've contributed to so many different industries, coaching so many different people, being, moving from San Fran to Washington and starting again and always reinventing yourself. So I'd love to start
Mhm.
off by everyone knowing your story and hearing about you.
Sure, sure. Well, I was born in 1964. No, I'm not going to go back that far. I'm just kidding.
It's a good year. It's a
Yeah.
good year.
No, I grew up in a single family household in California, actually, and it's one of those crazy things where you're growing up in a neighborhood, you're poor, but you don't know it because everybody else is poor, right? And then you start getting a taste of the world, and you realize, oh my gosh, there's a whole world out there that I had no idea of. And so, I think I don't know if you've read any part of my book or seen my TEDx talk, but I talk about this defining moment in my life, which is my mother, who has long since passed away, was a big football fan, and she took me, the American football fan, and she took me to see the Oakland Raiders. A football game. And for the first time, I saw NFL cheerleaders, and I thought they were the most glamorous people I had ever seen in my life, ever. I was
Yeah.
mesmerized. That completely changed my life. I was 10 years old at the time.
Oh,
And I thought, there was nobody had any like big plans for me. It was kind of like, you graduate from high school and then you go get the local job or whatever. And, but after that game, I was like, I'm going to be somebody. Maybe I'm meant to be special. Maybe I'm meant to be like them, and I'm going to be visible. I'm going to be seen. I'm going to do some exciting things. And so from that moment on, I really set my sights on seeing a much bigger world. I'd never even thought about going to college. It all ended at high school to me. I ended up going to college. I ended up transferring, becoming an all-star cheerleader in college. I ended up cheering for the NFL. I went back to school, got 2 master's degrees, became a corporate executive. It's just been a crazy, crazy whirlwind of a life, actually. And it's been, fantastic for the most part, minus
I
cancer diagnoses, that wasn't so great, but
know. Oh my gosh. But that's such a magical story. You as a 10-year-old being so inspired, following your dream, that leading to you having like multiple careers and multiple from cheerleading to, and that's not easy. Being a cheerleader, and what team were you cheerleading for?
the team at the time that was known as the Washington Redskins.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Yes, they just changed your name.
they did.
Uh
Yeah.
finally. But that's incredible. And do you have a favorite like in terms of all those careers?
Oh gosh. Well, cheerleading was just a ton of fun because it was my opportunity to be that star and that spark for another 10-year-old. So
Oh,
it's
I
like,
love
wow,
it.
that's so
Yeah.
amazing. I mean, aside from the fact that, I've been a cheerleader since I was, 12 years old. So it was my
Yeah.
sport, if you will. So I loved doing that. But I loved being a corporate executive. When you're in corporate affairs and crisis communications, you're always working with the C suite
Yeah.
before you're in the C
Absolutely.
suite. And so you always know a good communications person because they're waiting for a good crisis. That's just kind of how we are. It's like, oh my gosh, we need a good crisis here. And I'd say, and now, I absolutely love coaching. That has leadership coaching has been just really fantastic. And then speaking, right? How can you not love, being a speaker
Well,
and
yeah.
being
It's just you imparting everything that you've learned from your beautiful, incredible Grace life, which is incredible.
yeah.
So you have coached for many years. So I'm so curious to find out how you use humor in your coaching and in everything you've done. So I thought we'd just start off. I always start off by asking people their favorite joke.
Okay.
Um,
This would fall into the dad joke category before they
that's
were able
okay.
to talk about dad jokes, right? So one day the string walks into a bar and he sits down at the bar and he hits the bar and says, "Barkeep, I'd like a drink. I'd like a tequila." And the barkeep says, "Get out of here. We don't serve strings here. Just get out of here." And so the string just kind of walks out, a little dejected. So the next day, he's thinking, well, there'll be a different bartender. So he goes into the bar, he hops up on the bar stool, and he says, "Barkeep, I'd like a drink. I'll have a shot of tequila." And the barkeep turns around and says, "I thought I told you yesterday, we don't serve strings here. Get out of here." So the guy leaves, the string leaves. And so he comes back the third day. But before he does that, he kind of twists his head up a little bit and then he takes the strings and he kind of opens them up, like a little hairstyle, I guess. And he walks in and he sits down on the bar and he says, "Barkeep, I'd like a drink. I'd like a shot of tequila." And the barkeep says, "How many times do I have to tell you we don't serve strings here?" And he says, "I'm not a string. I'm afraid not." It was like the dumbest joke ever, but I crack up every time I hear it
Every
or I
time.
tell it. It's just
It's
because people stop
literally
for a minute and they're
that
like,
is literally one of my favorite childhood jokes that you just told.
yeah,
It was because we all have like that joke we tell at parties or whatever. When I was a kid, that was it. I love it. And it
yeah,
does. It's ridiculous and still makes me giggle.
right, right.
So
I didn't
good.
learn it until I was an adult. So that's my party trick, right? I
It's
have that as
good.
my party trick. So
We all need a party trick, all
yeah.
of us. How so you've had so many careers.
Mhm.
When you were dealing with people in the C-suite and when you were in the C-suite yourself, because
Yes.
you've helped and coached so many hundreds of
Mhm.
companies,
Yes.
how did you use humor to create a healthy work culture?
Yeah, a couple of things. When I was leading my teams, I always used humor in some way or another. And the best thing you can do is to not be afraid to laugh at yourself, right? And then the other, as the internet and YouTube came around, I would literally comb the internet for funny stories that I could start every meeting with,
Oh,
right?
I
And it
love
just kind of became this thing of what is Charlene going to start the meeting with now? Right. Because I just wanted everybody to just laugh. If you were tense when you came in or whatever, just let it go and let's start this meeting, fresh. In coaching leaders, a lot of times what I will tell people is you have to be able to laugh at yourself. Right. It's going to humanize you in front of your people. And that's what your people need. They need to know that you're human. You put on, your pants legs one at a time, like, well, hopefully you do, like everybody else. And just don't be afraid to laugh at yourself, right? And you absolutely have to laugh at yourself before you ever laugh at anybody else, right? Or someone else's situation.
I love that. And I like just you starting off the meeting that way, having that fresh tone, having everyone, because work can be so transactional
Yeah.
and to make it human is so different and such a great way for you to lead and inspire.
Yeah, and it's fun because then after a while, people then start saying, "Oh, this is my favorite one. Can we show this one at the meeting?" And I'm like, "Sure." And sometimes, we would have 8 in one day because you have all of these meetings and everybody just
Right.
knew, well, we're going to start off laughing. And then some people would say, "Oh, that's not funny." And it's like, "Okay, well, then you bring the next one. Let's see what your
Yes.
humor is." Yeah,
Yeah.
because we don't all have the same sense of humor, of course.
No, everyone does come. And humor's
Mhm.
all about perspective, really.
Right.
And I love the fact you said, you always make fun of yourself. And
Mhm.
especially when you're in a leadership position, because you never want to punch down.
Right, right. Absolutely. And it's just helpful. If you can get people to smile before you start anything, I think, you're just better off that way.
Oh, absolutely. And do you believe it plays a role in building a strong team?
Absolutely. I think, a couple of things is one is just humor, just people knowing that you have a sense of humor. Because think about all the people, that we've worked for in our lives and we thought, man, they do not have a sense of humor. Right. It's like,
Yes.
I don't want to
Uh,
be around that person. They're not even pleasant. So I think that, and then also, one thing that I learned that does kind of play in with humor is to not be afraid to show your life to
yes.
your team. Right. And because then they see a different side of you. Right. When I was in the C suite, I was all about, aside from the humor, the heart charging, let's get the business done. We're here to do it done. Once we get this done, we can have all the fun in the world, but boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
Then I had my husband and I used to throw these wildly huge, ridiculous parties. And one
Used to do it again.
I know, right? That's what you keep saying, right? And one day, my boss at the time said, "Why don't you invite your team to your party?" And I was like, "Well, why would I want to do that, right? Why would I want to
Uh,
open up that part of my life?" But I did end up inviting them to a party. We were having a white party. I invited them to the party, and then they get to see a completely different side of you. And then
yeah.
say, "Hey, remember that time?" And it's funny, and everybody's in on the story. So I think sometimes we think that if we don't bring in humor, that, or rather, we think that if we do bring in humor, that people will take us less seriously, right?
Absolutely.
And I think often it's just they may take you a little less seriously, but they're going to take you more humanly, right?
I love that.
And I think,
Because it really does. It sets us apart
mhm,
and it makes us work better. If we can bond in the good times, we work better in the hard times. And it really does solidify people as a group,
mhm.
as an organization where we really feel like we can work together. I
Right.
find that really inspiring.
Yeah.
Yeah. And did you find it really help with team collaboration?
Oh, absolutely. Because you could just, there are times, my mother used to say, if I wasn't laughing, I'd be crying. Right. And so, I kind of took that into the workplace with me, and we'd have those tough times and, because we dealt with a lot of crises. Right. And the thing about crises is they come out of nowhere. I mean, they don't really, but it always feels like they've come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And I would say to my team, look, guys, if we're not laughing, we're crying. So let's just laugh. Let's just laugh our way through it. And then you just come together and you get through it. And it builds that team camaraderie. You know,
Yeah.
you, you have these inside jokes that get created, and it just pulls you all together. You
Yeah.
know,
No, absolutely. And
and we,
as a woman in the C-suite and dealing with that, did you find humor was different for you than the guys?
well, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, let's get into it. No, honestly, because there aren't a lot of women, or there weren't 30 years ago, a
Right.
lot of women in the C-suite. And for you
Mhm.
to did you feel like you had to be one of the boys, or could you bring your own, because you seem very genuine and
Yeah, I am now.
okay.
I am now. When I started, I was
Uh,
more kind of like outmenning the men,
right.
that was the construct, right? That's the way that you had to be. And over time, I relaxed that, and if you can believe it, I started relaxing it with nail polish, right?
What?
So
No,
yeah, I know.
tell me.
So here's the thing. So, when you work in all male industries, which is what I've
Yeah,
always done, right? I've always worked in very homogeneous environments. Just they just weren't homogeneous for me. And,
right.
so, and I remember one time, one of my supervisors told me, he says, Charlene, you stand out too much. You wear bright colors, you do this, you stand out too much. I'm like, dude, there are like 50 white men and me. I could be in a
Yes.
pack and I'm going to stand out. It has nothing to do with colors. But anyway, so what I started doing is, you remember the era of the French manicure, right? It
Yes.
was taken seriously, had on the French manicure. So then I started wearing red nail polish and blue nail polish and orange nail polish. And you would think that I had chopped off somebody's arms, right? I mean, the reaction that I would
Wow.
get. But what I also noticed that started to happen now, at this point, I'm in my 40s. So what I also started to notice then is that other women started wearing nail polish, a little bit more muted, but, started wearing nail polish. And then I started wearing heels because Lord knows nobody's legs look good in flat shoes. So anyway, I started wearing heels. And then I noticed that other women would start wearing heels. And at one point, I had two things happen in probably within a 6-month period. I had this superstar woman come work for me, and now she's like a senior vice president somewhere. She's just ascended. She was fantastic. And I asked her one day, I said, why did you come work for me? You had lots of choices and where you went. And she said, when you interviewed me, you had on blue nail polish. And she said, I wanted to work for a female executive that had enough nerve and confidence to wear blue nail polish.
Oh my gosh. What a
Right.
great story.
And it's like you don't even think about things like that, right?
Yeah.
And then and not too much later after that, I used to, like we all do in the workplace, you find women, you try to mentor women,
Mhm.
and help them. And this woman came in and she had on a gray suit. And I was like, I don't know why anybody's wearing gray, but okay. But she had on this beautiful fuchsia blouse. And when she came in, I complimented her on her blouse. And she had worked there, I think maybe 8 or 9 years at that point. And she said, Charlene, before you, I would have never worn this blouse to work. She said, nobody
Wow.
wears bright colors here, she says. And then suddenly we have this C-suite executive woman, black woman,
Yes.
coming in with long hair, and she's coming in and she's wearing bright colors and she has
Amazing.
orange suits and red suits and things like that. And
Yeah.
it was interesting because I was frequently counseled not to wear bright colors, not to wear suits, and
Yeah.
I'm like, look, guy, the day you see me walk into the office and I'm in khakis and a polo, I've given up. So
Yes.
that's just not going to happen. You know?
I love it so much. What a great story.
Yeah.
It really is. And just coming from your perspective and because I know as a female comic and being in those environments, I had to be like one of the guys. And
Right.
now I feel like I can actually be a woman in that environment.
Right,
And
exactly.
that's a big difference I
Mhm.
find. And especially for C-suite and everything you've done.
Yeah, the
And
pressure to conform is huge, right?
yeah.
It's just the pressure to just fit in and to wear the pantsuits versus I'm too old to wear a mini skirt, but in those days,
Yeah.
the pressure to wear a pantsuit instead of a mini skirt, or just, put your hair back and put your hair up. There was
Yeah.
just so much pressure to be someone else that at some point I said, you know what? I just know how to be me. And that's who I'm going to be.
I love that. And how great is that for your kids to see that? Because you
Yeah,
have 2 daughters, right?
I do. They're
Yeah,
30 and 28.
I
And
love it. So our kids are basically the same age.
yeah, yeah,
That's amazing. Are
yeah.
any of them still home?
No, no. So,
Oh,
one's an accountant, and then
yeah.
and the other lives out in LA. She works for Red Bull in their
Oh, okay, cool.
yeah. So she's up there.
That's
She's getting married in October. Thus,
oh my gosh.
that won't die. But
The balloons that will not die. I
I
love
know,
it.
I know, I know.
Oh my god. Do you actually play the piano beside behind you?
No, but it looks great, doesn't
Yeah, it
it?
does. It looks amazing.
My
Looks
husband plays.
abs
Yeah, my
I
husband
love it.
plays. I don't. I play chopsticks, and that's about the best I can do.
Oh, chopsticks are
Mm.
good. They're
Right,
classic.
right.
Yeah.
My husband's mother was a piano teacher, and my mother was a beautiful piano player.
Aw,
So I just don't feel like a house. Bless you. A house
thank
without.
you.
I just don't feel like a house is a home without a piano in it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. I
So,
agree. We got one of those too. Although
uh-huh.
I did buy a piano and then I put my kids in lessons and then
Mhm.
no one would play it. And I got
Right.
so mad because it was taking up so much space. And
Right.
then I got rid of it. And then my son got really into music and wanted a piano again. Of course.
Of course, that's
Always the
exactly how
way.
it works. That's
Oh my
exactly how it
God.
works. Yeah. When we got this piano, we went to how the universities and music schools will have sales on their piano
Yeah.
that they used. And so we're walking in, and my husband, he says, okay, we're going to find the piano we want. Just, be real stern, just like shopping for a car, right? Like, don't
Yeah.
fall in love with it. Just, so we have some
Yeah.
negotiating power. I said, no problem. Well, when my mother played the piano, she only played gospel music. That's all
Oh,
she ever.
I love it.
And so this woman sits down, the saleswoman, so we could hear how the piano, sounds. I'm kind of tone deaf, so it didn't matter that much. You know, but she starts playing, and she starts playing this version of Amazing Grace, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden, before I even know what's going on, tears are flooding down my
No.
right. And my husband's like, well, I guess we have no bargaining power now. So that's the piano that is sitting here right now, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I just couldn't help myself.
Oh, I love that. I love that so much. What a great
Yeah.
story.
So as you can tell, we laugh a lot in my house. We
Oh,
laugh
I
at
bet.
everything.
I bet. Do you find like how do you find it hard to balance between professionalism and showing your true self?
No,
No.
not anymore. Not once I made the decision. So I had two cancer diagnoses back to back. Right, I was
Wow.
diagnosed with one cancer, with uterine cancer. 6 months later, I had stage 2 breast cancer. Went through almost 5 years of treatment,
Oh
and
my gosh.
when I came out of that, and by that time I was probably, I think I was maybe 51, 52 when I was diagnosed. And so when I came out of that, I was just done being who everybody said I needed to be. Right. I
Yeah.
was like, you know what? Nobody knows how much time they have. And I don't
Yeah.
want people talking about who they think I am. And that's not who I am. Right. And
Yeah.
so I drew that line, and I don't, I respect my boundaries so that other people respect my boundaries. And I just don't, what you see is what you get, you know,
Yeah.
just,
That's amazing. That's been a long lesson for me, setting my boundaries,
Mhm.
feeling okay saying no, feeling okay when I don't want to do something instead of, really trying to people please.
Yeah, yeah. I tell
Like,
people all the time that, no is a complete sentence. So why do we feel that we need to add an explanation afterward?
yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
My husband will say, hey, do you want to do this? Or so and so invited us to do this. I'm like, no. He's like, you got something else going on? No,
No, I
no,
just don't want to.
not
Yeah.
to do. That's not how I want to be spending my time. So,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, look at you, your nail polish in your nose. I love it. Oh my, and can you share any advice you would give maybe your younger self or people listening to the podcast and how they can use humor to enhance, to build meaningful relationships?
Right. Yeah. I think, like I said when we started off, that it's really important to laugh at yourself, right? So that
Yeah.
it gives people permission then to laugh at themselves, and that they understand if they do something funny or whatever and you laugh, you're not laughing at them,
Yeah.
you're kind of laughing with them. And I do caution people a lot, don't confuse sarcasm with humor. Right, because sarcasm can really hurt people's feelings, so don't,
Yeah.
so don't confuse those two, and get to know people, right? If you're going to laugh together, you have to get to know people, or you just have, and you have to be vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
You have to be really vulnerable and just tell people stupid stuff about yourself, right? You know,
Yeah.
like one of the things for me, and it's, we all have our idiosyncrasies, and this is mine. When I get on an airplane, then
Yes.
I buckle my seatbelt. If the person who was in the seat before me is smaller than I am, it just pisses me off. And I make such a big deal about it. I don't care if I know the person sitting next
It
to
could have
me
been a
or the
child.
other person. It doesn't matter. I'm like, I cannot believe that somebody was so and it immediately makes the person, it disarms the person next to you.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
just tell people, just don't be afraid to, if you're walking and you trip, don't play it off to say, "Oh my goodness, first day with new feet," or
Yes.
whatever it is. And but I will say that with women, we do have to use our humor more cautiously until we have developed the relationship, because
Yeah.
you've got about a 90% chance of it being misread in some way. Right? It was
How
either,
sad is that?
oh, I know. It's an either an off the cuff remark, or,
Yeah.
and the other is, if you're a woman, it's probably really good to, really practice your fake laugh, right? Because, because men,
What is happening?
yeah,
Go on,
because
Charlene.
men think everything they say is funny.
Yeah.
Right? They just think that they're funnier than they are. And I know I use my husband, a lot, in my examples, and he'll say something and he'll just crack himself up and he'll say, "At work, everybody laughed at that." And I said, "I think you give them all their performance appraisals." And
Yeah.
he said, "Of course they're going to laugh at you." And he said, "Well, why didn't you laugh?" I said, "It wasn't funny."
Oh my gosh. You are hard egg.
I was like, "I mean, I thought it was funny, right?" I was like, "It's not funny. I'm sorry." You know,
That's
uh,
so funny.
so I think with women it is a little different, and that sometimes we just have to laugh. And I laugh in my head a lot, right?
Yeah. I've definitely had moments where I've gone on stage as a female stand-up and
Mhm.
I can hear people in the room as I'm going up, "Oh no, a female comic."
Wow.
And then I kick the
Think about
shit
that.
out
Yeah, what does that feel
and
like?
then I kick the shit out of them because I know I'm good at what I do.
Yeah.
It's like I'm not going to change. I'm not holding back
Mhm.
because you have this misconception of what you think I should be.
Right.
And I think that's also in the C-suite as well. I think
Mhm.
times have changed a lot.
Mhm.
But I definitely feel like there's lingering elements of that. And I think that's so true. Where a
Oh,
man can say something and everyone's like, "That's so funny." And a woman says it and it's like, it's
right,
just,
right.
yeah, I definitely feel that
Mhm.
in a lot of
Mhm.
situations for sure.
Yeah, yeah, and I think you're right. I think it's the same way in the C-suite. We've all been there where you say something brilliant and it's radio silence, right? And
Yeah.
I will get to the point where I'll say, "Crickets, crickets,
Ye-
crickets." I know I just said something worth listening to, but I don't hear anything. And then I'll just say, "And I don't want to hear Joe over there repeat that and have me
yes.
tell him what a great idea it is."
Yeah.
And when I was 20, I would have never had the nerve to do that. But, as I've gotten older, I'm like, what's the worst thing that can happen? Right.
Absolutely.
You know,
Yeah.
you just get more risky, I think, when you're older, right?
I
Or you're willing to take those risks.
I think you get to a point where I know you just know the power in being you
Yes.
and
Yes.
being authentic
Right.
and know that I've done so much better when I've only tried to be myself instead of trying to be something for
Mhm.
anyone else. So I think that's a great point you
Yeah,
just made.
absolutely. Yeah, I tell people all the time when I coach them, and they'll say, "Oh, well, so and so's doing this, and so and so's doing this," and I'll say, you can only run your race, right?
Yes.
You can run your race better than anyone else can. So just stay focused on what you're doing, right?
I
And
love that.
it's as a friend of mine once said, "Control the controllables and let everything else go." Right?
Yeah.
Taking up space in your mind, right? So just let the rest of it go.
And did you find your sense of humor changed when you were battling cancer?
I didn't have a sense of humor when I was battling cancer.
Okay.
No, it's although I will say, so when I was battling cancer, I had 9 surgeries in 3 years.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so, yeah, and so I did probably midway through, I started realizing that I was getting a little dumber every time I went under anesthesia, and came out of it. And I thought, I think I'm getting a little dumber each time, and then I would kind of start to joke around, not about the cancer, but just the nurse who couldn't put a line in my arm,
Right.
vein, to save her life, the doctor who did I had reconstruction on my breast and he did a lot of fat transfer. And I was like, well, why won't you take it from where I want you to take it? Why you get to decide where it comes from? Why can't I just decide? This should be my decision.
Oh my gosh. Not the booty, not the booty, just the belly.
Right, exactly. I was like, there's a little bit here and a little bit
Oh my gosh, that's so
here.
funny.
He's like, "We're not remaking you, Charlene." I said, "Well,
Why not?
you are, right?" I said, "Shouldn't there be something at the end of the rainbow,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
other than paying it forward?" Because I do believe very strongly in that if you, and that's one of the reasons why I became a coach and a speaker, is that I'm a firm believer that if you overcome something traumatic, that
yeah,
that you have a responsibility to turn it into something positive for other people. And so that I've always taken very seriously. But, as you're starting to get down there and it's like another surgery and, the doctor comes in and they always ask you, okay, what are we doing today so that they don't like cut off the wrong limb or something. And it's like, I think we're taking off my right pinky toe today, and they're like, no, higher up.
Uh,
But,
wow. This is just so much fun. Have you found when you're coaching now and now that you're reinventing yourself again, are you bringing a different phase of humor into your life? Like do you feel like is humor in your keynote or when you're coaching and stuff, are you telling people to lighten up, to use a bit of humor in it?
yeah, well, I used to say, look, folks, we're not curing cancer, but I don't say that
Yeah.
anymore. you know,
Thank God
now
they
it's
are.
not brain surgery, but I often will tell people, I was like, look, we spend a lot of our time at work,
Yeah.
thinking about work, doing things at work. So
Yeah.
why aren't we spending time making it enjoyable? Right? Not everything has to be a slog, and
Yeah.
I have a point in my keynote where I talk about where I tried out for cheerleader for the first time. And so I would talk about it. Now I actually act the whole thing out.
Oh,
I
stop.
do the spin, I do the high kick, I do the whole thing, right?
Can you still do the splits?
I well, yes.
Oh my gosh, stop it.
It might take me a little longer.
Oh, to get up.
Exactly. I might have to call somebody to say, "Hey, can you help me under the
Oh.
arm?" Just things like that, and it's like, I'm not afraid to look silly or,
Yeah, good.
and it's just, and I want people to laugh. I want people to feel something. I want them
Yeah.
to learn something, and I want them to laugh. I want them to just say, "Wow, that was really heavy, but that was kind of fun too."
Yeah.
At the same time.
It really does bring people together.
It absolutely does. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of what I do also when I do sessions with groups is I will often use new terminology to give them a common language that
Ah.
they can then laugh about. I do this thing about it's called notice versus imagine.
Yeah.
What do you notice like in the workforce? What do you notice about somebody? Now, what have you imagined as a result of that? Because what we often
Huh.
do is we go crazy with the imagine, but it's not based.
Right.
And so I've taught people, and I said, okay, so when you have this meeting and you're not getting along with someone, why don't you say, I noticed that you did this. I imagined that you did that you're doing this, or that this is what this meant. And so it gets
Yeah.
a whole new language. And then before you know it, they're saying, oh, well, did you notice or did you imagine? Did and it's kind of a fun thing, you know?
Yeah.
And
And
so
it's such a slight shift.
right, right. And I just think whenever we can infuse any kind of
Yeah.
humanity or lightheartedness, I have they won't today because they're upstairs in their crate, but I have two puppies that
Oh,
crash my calls all the time,
yeah.
and every now and then you'll get the really serious client,
Oh
that says,
gosh.
your dog is distracting me. And
Yeah.
I'll say, well, your attitude is distracting me. So let's just make peace with both. you know, it's like, this is me. This is life. This is
Yeah. Dogs are here, kids are here, balloons are here.
right.
Yeah.
Exactly. This is just
Yeah.
how we are. Let's just celebrate it.
What color are your nails today? I
Today
have to
they're in
know.
this weird kind of purple, which is
Oh.
unusual because usually these two fingers are always a different color. And this
Okay.
I was in a hurry and I got a little lazy because I do my nails myself.
Of
So,
course you do. Look
you know,
at you.
that was my learning moment. I always believe you should be learning something.
Yeah.
I thought instead of having the nail lady make fun of me in a language I don't understand when she's doing my nails, I'm going to learn how to do them myself. So that was my learning thing.
Good job.
It's a holdover from COVID.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
You know,
Yeah. Me and my chin hairs got very familiar during COVID.
people
Like,
get
what?
really, yeah, people get really creative.
Yes, they did.
Right? I was like, okay. I learned a lot about
Yeah.
just everything I paid other people to do. How to do myself, right?
Oh,
So,
I love it. Oh my gosh, I could just talk to you forever. Hey, okay, so I want to end this.
mhm.
What is the funniest thing that's ever happened to you that you can share, or one of them?
Oh gosh. Well, I think probably one thing that I smile about a lot is I'm a speed demon in my car. I am an absolute speed demon. I have a lead foot. I will admit it. One day I'm late to work because I'm always late to work. When I worked in corporate, and well, not late, but just not early. And I used to have a CEO who said, if you're on time, you're on time is what did he say? Early is on time is late. And
Right.
I was like, I'm sorry, I don't ascribe to that, but
Yeah, good for you.
but I'm going to work and I literally pull out of my cul-de-sac, right? And I'm going down the street and woo, the policeman pulls me over, right? And it's one thing to get pulled over somewhere, but when you get pulled over right by your house, all your neighbors are now seeing that you've been pulled over for something, and who knows what they're talking about. And so the policeman comes over and he says, can I have your driver's license? Blah, blah, blah. He says, did you know you were speeding? I said, I didn't know that I was speeding. Then he said, well, you were speeding. You know what the speed limit is here? And I said, I live here, but now I have no idea what the speed limit is. And he says, well, you were going faster. And I said, well, he goes, let me go check this out. He goes back to his car and does all of the things that he does. And he comes back and he says, well, Miss Wheeless, you don't get many speeding tickets. So I'm just going to give you a warning. But, what was going on? I said, okay, I'm going to come clean. I said, I was driving. I looked in the mirror. I realized my lipstick was not the right shade of red to go with my suit. So I leaned into my purse to get my lipstick. And as I was putting it on, looking in the rearview mirror, my foot hit the gas pedal and I started speeding. He just looks at me like, okay, so you're not even going to try to get out of the ticket. And I was like, I already said you're giving me a warning. I'm just telling you what happened. And he says, well, be careful and have a nice day. And I said,
Uh,
okay, so the officer, you have to admit the lipstick looks pretty good, right? And he goes, yes, it looks really good. So I finally get to the meeting and my boss says, Charlene, you're late. I said, there was a car, there was lipstick, there was a policeman, and almost a ticket. You want me to go through the whole story or should we just go with the meeting? He's like, it's you. Let's just go with the meeting. So it's not the funniest thing that ever happened to
it's
me.
great.
But whenever you can get a police officer to agree that changing your lipstick was a good idea and
Yeah,
reading,
absolutely. It's so good. Oh, I love it. You are just an incredible woman, so
Oh,
inspiring, or I just should say human, but so inspiring. Everything you're doing, how much you're contributing to so many different areas and so many, and what you have contributed, whether it's in the C suite, whether it's being on the field.
yes.
Yes, I
And
can't believe you still do it.
I guess they're not still the Redskins anymore.
It's so funny because my sister used to run a cheerleading school in Canada here.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but it's not as popular as it is in the States. There, it's so
It,
popular.
it's a big deal. I have a friend
Yeah.
who makes she makes bows for cheerleaders.
Oh,
The
yes.
rhinestone
Yeah.
bows.
Oh,
And my
yeah.
both are cheerleaders and dancers, so I can rhinestone the hell out of anything. Okay. But she decided she was going to make these bows. And I have to admit, Kate, I thought it was kind of a silly idea, right?
Yeah.
Cheerleading bows, really? And
Yeah.
these bows, who's going to buy these things?
Oh my gosh.
$1 million in sales for making
Wow.
bows, right?
Yeah. There
It's,
you go.
making bows. I've got to find my $1 million idea. I can rhinestone anything.
You are your $1 million idea. You are it. You
Is that
are it.
right? Yeah.
You're
I
it,
so
baby.
appreciate you having me on. I've just admired you for so long,
Oh
and
my
I
gosh,
love what
back
you
at
do.
you. I was so thrilled. And where can people find you? Where do you want people to look?
So, of course, my website, which is charlenewheeless.com, one L, two S's, like wheelless. I'm on LinkedIn all the time, and that's probably one of the best ways to reach me. And then my email is just charlene@charlenewheeless.com.
Perfect. And have Charlene come in and speak to your people. So inspiring. Again, so funny. Thank you so much.
Of course, thank you for having me. This was a delight.
Yay.